Howdy. So, I wanted to address this Yellow Jacket protest over in France. A lot of people are thinking that it has to do with gasoline prices, and I'm here to tell you that it does not. That it has everything to do with globalism, with open borders. And here in a minute, we'll find out from this gentleman who is a citizen of France that describes the reality over there, the reality of which the media will not divulge. They will focus on the fact that it has to do with gasoline prices, which, okay, yes, admittedly that is a catalyst, but it is much more than that. It has to do with the fact that the United Nations, along with George Soros and every crony that has been birthed from this central bank catastrophe that has enveloped not only my country, America, but the world. Okay, these gangsters want nothing more than to degrade society, Western culture, into a pit. So we don't have time to focus on oppression and issues with our government. So we're weak, so we're divided. This is their ultimate goal, and France is no different. The French people have been oppressed for decades, and this whole politically correct mantra, this whole PC culture has enveloped the world, and people are afraid to speak out and speak their mind for good reason, because if you do, you will lose your job, you will lose your home, your family, your dignity, everything, because there's a machine behind this whole thing, and it's called the liberal media and the liberal left. These people will attack, they will out you, they will dox you, and you will be looked down upon, and you will lose your job in an instant if you live in France or UK or Sweden, or you just go straight to jail. That's what it's come to over there. News outlets like Fox News will have you believe that it has everything to do with gasoline prices and this whole climate accord deal, which in itself is a load of BS and is completely untrue. It's a way to funnel trillions of dollars. I mean, these central banks have already squeezed so much out of the public with their dirty, rotten games, with this fiat currency that is worthless. Okay, they've already squeezed all that and into their coffers, and now they want to add to it. They want to literally break people. And the French people have had enough. Immigration is the main issue here. That's another, and that's another issue that causes monetary strain on the society. They've got, in addition I mean, that's just one aspect of it, but you've got a completely different culture. African Muslims coming up into your country that have zero respect for you. They're in their 20s, their testosterone's pumping. And I'm going to say this because I know this, because I've seen it in numerous countries. They're raping, they're pillaging, they're knifing people, they're throwing acid in their faces, they're snatching up young little women and using them as prostitutes. I mean, these young scum don't care about you. They don't care about your culture. They don't care about your religion. They despise women. They despise anything that has to do with freedom. And that has to do with the majority of them. Not all, but most. And, if you're not a Muslim, you're an infidel and you should be put to death. This is their mantra. There's no ifs, ands, and buts about it. This is their doctrine. Okay? And these people see this coming into their society when when a woman can't even walk down the streets of Paris into a neighborhood coffee or tea shop without getting scorned, okay, or said or told to get out, you shouldn't be here. That's a problem. Okay, in my mind, that's a problem. And this has perpetuated so much further than it is here in America, but it is coming. Okay, this PC bullshit where people's lives get destroyed if they decide to have an opinion, or they're attacked physically because they have an opinion different than the left or a Democrat or some soy boy that's grown up in his mama's basement that has been manipulated to think that because he's white, he's a bad person, and everyone that isn't in the leftist arena is a racist or a Nazi. Okay, this is all mind control. This is something that the media, Hollywood, perpetuates. This whole paradigm where, this transsexual, pedophilic whole paradigm that Hollywood had perpetuated. I mean, it's on cable news every night now, for God's sakes. It's insane. But the whole point here is that these people have come to a boiling point. As a conservative, everyone that I know that is, level-headed and a conservative and Christian or whatever, we are very tolerant people, and unfortunately to a fault. And when you're not able to communicate with the other side, and they refuse to because they know that they don't have the facts behind them, then you're forced to eat it. And once you get to a certain point, you just explode. You have to do something at some point. And this is exactly what's happened in Paris, or France. So, like I was saying, Fox News, worse than CNN in my mind, because, at least CNN just straight up lies to you. Fox will pretend to be your friend and get you on their side, and then try and turn the screws slightly so you start doubting yourself and start doubting who you are and what the president is all about. This is Fox News. This is the Rupert Murdoch Fox News. Don't trust Fox News. Okay? Maybe there's one person on there, but besides that, no. Anyways, this is my third time doing this because the audio didn't work, because I screwed up. But just play this short just a few minutes here and kind of get an idea of what the reality is over there versus this whole scenario that it's because of gas prices.
To make it clear, the Yellow Vest movement, the Yellow Vest protest, is in fact the white working class of France that have enough with the tax pressure. And it started on the 17th of November in Neubourg, in a city of the north of France. And I think it will last for some weeks.
And so the issue, as far as I understand it, is over the taxes that has been added onto the fuel prices. There is an issue of Macron and French policy in general, trying to solve the issue of let's just, for simplicity's sake, call it the fraud of climate change, right? So that we have the Paris Accord and all these agreements that the globalists have headed up to, basically start decommission gas vehicles and things like that. And one of the solutions that the French political establishment have been looking at is to stop with the sale even of gas-powered and diesel-powered vehicles at 2040 or 2050 or something like that. So now they've hiked the taxes, which is, for the American viewers, if we talk about dollars and gallons for a minute, a gallon of gas is costing $7 and I think around 50 cents in France right now with these.
It is a fraud, this whole climate accord thing. They're using this not only to funnel trillions of dollars to the elites, okay, over there in Brussels, where they disseminate all this cash to their cronies, but it's also to centralize everybody into the city centers where they can get control of people. Okay, they're doing this in California. They're restricting resources for people in single-family homes, water. That's a major one, right? But it goes way beyond that in California. But yeah, this is their whole goal: get people out of the suburbs, get them into city centers, so they can control you. This is what it's all about. This is their end goal. And of course, to just completely destroy the culture that exists.
These recent tax increases on the gas is
beautiful. Sorry about that. Of course, man, I am not having a good day.
Which is, for the American viewers, if we talk about dollars and gallons for a minute, a gallon of gas is costing $7 and I think around 50 cents in France right now with these recent tax increases on the gas. Is that a correct assumption of the situation, would you say? What can you say about the taxes that has been added onto the gas prices? Because that's how it all started. Am I correct?
Yes, all of what you said is correct. Yes.
Look at this fucking guy. I mean, this guy is he's a Rothschild banker. He is filth. What they were thinking when they elected this guy, I don't know.
So something I could add to explain another part of the problem is that the tax problem is only the shadow of a deeper aspect of the whole thing. And when I have interviewed people when I have interviewed protesters of this movement, something that they tell me very often is that the friends of the diversity is clearly absent from the crowds of the protesters.
That's true.
So,
yeah.
So people make a link between the cost of immigration and the tax pressure. So I think
a link of the costs of immigration and tax pressure. Exactly it, right? Not only do they not like the fact that their country is turning into a shithole because of all the garbage and filth in the streets that these people leave around, because they're used to it, living in a third world country. But the violence and just the complete lack of respect for their culture.
That this is something very positive about this this movement, this protest movement, because it is a very suffering, painful process for people, because the white working class get poorer and poorer, and I think it makes people aware of that link between the cost of mass immigration and the cost of fuel.
Yeah, someone has to pick up the tab, right? Someone has to pay for all of this. We have a very similar situation in Sweden, I would say, where taxes, both on gas but in other ways as well, specifically on living costs, have been hiked up to give the government more money. And what is the money being spent on? Well, open borders, migration, bringing in hundreds of thousands, if not even millions of people into our European countries, and basically them ending up in a situation where they become dependent on the state because they don't get to work right away. They become dependent vassals of the state, effectively. And someone has to pay for that. So do you think that that's kind of then an underlying pinning of these protests? Maybe it's not out in the open, and maybe it's not even in the forefront of the consciousness of some of the people protesting, but they know that their living standard is going down. They know that they can't afford living from month to month because they have these huge costs of migration and open borders in France.
Yes, part of the people are aware of this, and a huge part.
That's the thing, you know. Eventually, people find out what the actual cost is. Some people are willfully ignorant, like here in America on the left. You know, obviously, the politicians know how much it costs to support all these illegal immigrants. This, 25 million illegals or whatever is here. But the cost on the country is immense. Billions of dollars annually for healthcare, education, food, housing, for people that aren't even citizens of this country. I'm somebody who paid into Social Security my whole life, and I will not benefit from that one bit. Here you have somebody getting $1,000 a month from Social Security that's recently retired. 10 years from now, that's going to be non-existent. Yet we continue to pay for people that aren't even citizens of this country so they can have standards of living that people that are here that are working have. I mean, a lot of these people, and I know because I've worked with a lot of them, but I mean, a lot of these people, they don't work. I mean, the women, some of the women, a lot of the women do, but some of them don't. They'll sit at home, they'll say they have, they've got 3 kids, whatever. They get money from the state for all 3 of those kids, food. They say that the father is non-existent, that he's not in the home. Well, in fact, he actually is in the home, and he's working under the table as well. So they're sending all their money back home and to their relatives, whatever, somebody who's going to build them a house while they're up here, or they're just giving it to their relatives down there. And they're living off the backs of American citizens. This is the reality that people refuse to talk about on the left. And I am fucking sick of it. I am so tired of it. This country is bankrupt as it is because of this fiat currency system and these central bankers and the Fed. It's so corrupt. I've just had it. I see this and these lies, incessant lies every day from the mainstream media. I just, it's coming to that point, just like with France. Here. People aren't going to put up with this shit anymore.
I think that they hardly dare to think that this is true. It's very weird because while this is obvious, many people do not dare to say this truth and even to think about it. But
they do not dare to say this truth or even to think about it, to say the truth about the immigrants. Okay? Because they will be chastised to the nth degree. They will lose their jobs, like I said, their homes. That's the reality of things. Me, I don't care. I've got nothing to lose. I've never been politically correct, and I never will be. And to think that people are sitting back, biting their tongues, and not speaking how they feel every day, it's got to create some serious health issues. It's not healthy.
In France, it's been 40 years that the government prevent people from seeing the truth. So I think that we paid a price of 40 to 50 years of blindness. So I think maybe 20 to 30% of the population is aware about the environmental fraud. The speech about the environment. And they are aware also that the cost of immigration, which has been, there's a report that...
Look at this. RT feels the need to blur out some guy giving the finger to an inanimate object. Really? Come on. Seriously. You've got this whole transgender pedophilic agenda every day in the media and in Hollywood and on cable news that's being pushed, and people are all good with that, but some dude's giving the finger to a fucking scooter and they got to blur that out. What is going on?
Stand that the cost of immigration is up to 84 billions for the last years. So many people do not know this at all. So in fact, there are several Frances. You have the diversity France. You have the France of people that are aware of all.
I am aware that RT is a Russian TV and that obviously they rule a little bit differently with their media, but come on.
These issues, and you have a huge mass of people that feel that something is wrong, that the government is lying, but they don't really know the reason why. It's a bit like the allegory of the Plato's cave. They feel they see only the shadow of a deeper aspect of the whole thing.
That's a true observation, I would say. Now, we do see in some of the protest footage here, we can see there is French flags out there. There is some, right here in this footage, people can see if they're watching the video version of this here, the French flags. It implies, because it was for a while, some people I've heard, commenters have said, well, the protests have been hijacked by far activists, right? And they can't really decide, is it far left, is it far right? And some people have said it actually is a little bit of both. And I don't know what your take on that is, but here we can see the police even try to rip the flag off of one lady. But it seems that the uniting effort is anger, right? They're just angry and upset. They're upset with Macron, they're upset with France and the establishment, and it's not really like politically defined, the movement. Is that a correct assessment?
Yes, that's perfectly correct. But one thing I would like to add is that French media told that it was far right wingers that were the rioters during the protest of last Saturday. It's a pure lie. In fact, the media filmed a zone of road works to make believe that the pavers had been torn off by protesters. It's another lie. In fact,
it's not necessarily true. I saw a video where they were chopping up those pavers so they could use them to throw. But anyways, this props to Red Ice TV for exposing the truth with somebody that actually is there and lives it in France. And you will not be hearing that on King 5 News. Yeah, this demon right here, that's a demon. And he is hell-bent on destroying that country and having people bow down because they have no other choice. And that is the agenda for all of Western society from Brussels, the United Nations. So that's all I got. Hopefully this video actually has audio this time. This will be my third one. But anyways, peace out.